woman as an art something.
Exactly. That's
Mhm.
yeah. That's what I mean. Well, you know, mostly those couple fool people because they look at them peripherally and. There's some very cool stuff in there. Such a beautiful museum.
Isn't that nice they put these on here for you to...
So Jeff.
Hey, so we're back. How you guys doing? Oh, you are? Well, we're standing outside.
Coming up for the contest, we have Jay and Michaela coming up. We have Evelyn Champagne King. My dentures fell out. Don't go home tonight. There's nothing else to do. The new 420 lounge here, soon by the Village Pub, and they've got some treasures and freebies to throw out. Everybody, hands up! Hands up, everybody! Hands up! Wait a minute, let's make them work for them.
Hundreds and hundreds of people who gave, and they get their name. And there's 1,400 clips, so we were really grateful to C-SPAN. So Bruce, take over.
Your name's on there too.
I saw my name was there.
Did you do some voiceover on
I
that?
did voiceover. When you're doing like, you know, a documentary, where I was sitting in the editing room with Janice and Monique, who are brilliant, by the way. The editing is just amazing. And they said, we need Frank Pembrek. And I said, right? Right now. I said, okay. So then we just did it and we stuck it in the computer, and that's how you make documentaries. It's like that. So
Well, it's an amazing film, don't you think?
It's amazing because we have an amazing subject matter, Molly Ivins. I was really grateful.
Well, I was just saying, she's been one of my heroes for a really long time. In fact, she was the journalist that I always wanted to be, you know, and I was not one of those. Bruce Bessier couldn't say that.
You said a lot of things, Bruce, in my last 6 films, so I really appreciate your candidness.
Well,
so,
let's talk about the genesis of this film. She died in 2007. It just came out this year. How long has your team been working on this, and what prompted it?
well, some people in the audience actually told me they saw the play Red Hot Patriot, and as you know, lots of documentaries, and my good friend Allison Engel, who lives here in Palm Desert, she wrote a play, and I go, you wrote a play? She's never written a play before, so I had to go because she went to all my docs, and it was Red Hot Patriot, the life and times of Molly Ivins, and it was just amazing. I never heard anything about Molly. I cried, I laughed, and I said, if I'm like a social activist, how can I not know about Molly Ivins? And so I went backstage and I said to Kathleen Turner and Allison, has any doc been? And they said, no. I said, okay, I'm gonna do it. And they both said yes. Then I went home to my partner, Dan, and I said, hey, have you heard of Molly Ivins? Are you crazy? You never heard of Molly Ivins? And then he said, look up the book stand. I said, the bookcase. There's 6 Molly Ivins books. I've been sleeping next to Molly for 15 years and didn't know it. So I'm really lucky to have Molly as an inspiration in my life now.
Well, I saw on your website or on your Facebook page you have a picture of yourself with Molly Ivins, right?
No.
Okay.
Just the crew.
So
Just
you never
crew.
met Molly then?
Never got to
Okay,
meet her.
All right.
I feel like I've met her now after spending 7 years in the editing room with her. So we're definitely good friends.
And how about Janice? What was her attraction to Molly Ivins?
Same thing happened to me. Janice is like this tough little Jewish, and I say little because she's that tall, woman from Brooklyn, New York, and we've been I've been wanting to work with her. And she has so much chutzpah, and to me, she's little Molly. She's Molly me. And I went to her and I said, I saw this play. Have you ever heard of Molly Ivins? She said, no. I said, go to the play. And she saw the play, and she spent all night long Googling and seeing Molly stuff. And then a week later, Molly gave her entire estate to the ACLU and to the Texas Observer. And so they were very excited that we would be getting Molly's message out. So 50% of the profits from the film go to the Texas Observer and to the ACLU. Wow. And so we're excited about that.
I can't believe that you guys had such passion without having read her material. I mean, she really was a legend, and you must have really done a deep dive to have developed a passion for her like you did. And have you encountered anybody else like her in journalism? I mean,
well, there's lots of. That's a great question. There's lots of people out there like John Oliver and Jon Stewart, and what I love the section on with Rachel Maddow when we were in New York with Rachel. That to me, to see Rachel so deeply touched by Molly's life. I mean, I didn't know that the connection was there between her and Molly and how she was inspired by Molly, and she says it so beautifully. I can't do what Molly does, because Molly was a staff of 1 with chief of staff, right? And all these other people have like staffs of 7, and I was just at KMIR. They had like 20 people in the newsroom looking for stuff, and it was just Molly at home. You saw her office. It's Molly and me, and so I think that was one of the most impressive things. And two columns a week. Right, and writing books. I mean, she never slept, but I think that's what impressed me the
well, there used to be people like Mike Royko who would write 5 or 6 columns a week like that.
On a typewriter.
You go back to Mark Twain and I.F. Stone, right. And there is a grand tradition in print journalism of that type of acerbic humor. Yeah. And you mentioned a couple people in television. And it continues on television, but it has been lost in print journalism. Yeah. I think she is the last of her kind. I think Maureen Dowd is a very good writer. She's a great storyteller, but she's an insider. If you read her columns, she refers to her sources like Hillary. She calls her Hillary, right? Yeah, and she is so close, she goes to parties with people. She throws parties for her celebrities, and then she comes up with good material. Molly chose to be an outsider, and that's really, really tough on your private life. I mean, why do you think that there isn't anybody like that in print journalism anymore?
Well, print journalism is having, the biggest...
And I mean websites too. I mean, you talk about every newspaper now has their own website. That's what I'm talking about, journalism by words.
Well, I think, a lot of times people are talking about we don't have curated journalism anymore. We don't have somebody really curating what we looked at or how we look at it or why we look at it and to check to see if it's true or not true. And so, there's always been this rigorous process that existed to get to the place where we got to see it in print in the first place. And now, as we all know, we now know that, tons of people are making fake newspapers and fake articles and fake things, and so I don't think that I personally trust all the information I'm getting, even when I feel like it's coming from reliable sources, because I don't know if that reliable source got co-opted by some robot in, Romania, so we're really in this place where we don't have the same people looking with the intelligence and the ability to analyze what we're looking at to help us along with making that selection.
You're right. A lot of journalism is aggregation today.
Aggregation, yes.
But I can tell you that I got that book. You Can't Say That, Molly Ivins Can You, back in the 90s. A friend of mine gave that to me because I was going through some pains in corporate journalism, and I'll tell you one of my theories of why we don't see that anymore today, because I used to write a humor column, and I used to make fun of people that were popular and could handle it, but I got a threat of a lawsuit one day and got called into the editor's office, and we got a call with our Gannett attorney, and the attorney said, in journalism today, we have limited resources, limited legal resources. We have 2 attorneys in the entire corporation, and each of them charge $500 an hour. Now, do you think that we should be spending $500 an hour defending the First Amendment or humor columnists? Yeah, okay. And it was like, so I not only had to just grovel and do an apology to get out of that one, but we stopped writing humor columns, and the newspaper industry in general stopped writing humor columns. And I don't think that's why you won't see any really acerbic political humorists in the newspaper industry today.
Yeah. Well, we're a very litigious society, and it's really been to our disadvantage. But I think that one of the things that's happening, and I'm sure a lot of you probably are advocates because you're here tonight, is that documentaries have been an incredible resource for information that we would never hear or see. And I can see Sid, from the Palm Springs Film Festival, who's seen a lot of my documentaries, but I did a film on North Korea on concentration camps. Do you think it's relevant today? That film is still out there letting people know that there's hundreds of children in concentration camps in North Korea. Well, we're calling him our boyfriend. So, there's and the same thing that we did in the Ukraine, following the Ukraine situation there. The woman, Yulia Chuchenko, who's in prison right now, who's in the news right now because she's put away because she said something about controlling the gas industry by the Russians. So this kind of information is coming through documentaries because documentary filmmakers can go into depth. I go to the IDA Awards, the International Documentary Association Awards. Documentary people are losing their lives, to make these films. The one who did the film on the drug barons in Mexico, gone. So it's not print journalism, but it's certainly one of the things that we can rely on now that that information is getting out there, and we have Amazon and Netflix to get those things out to. I know I watch documentaries all night long, so
it is a repercussion of the fact that print journalism is dying. Documentary films are more popular than they've ever been before. Yeah. How is this film doing? I mean, it's been on the film festival circuit for a while, and it's just coming out in general release now. How can you talk a little bit about? I know it did pretty well in Texas.
We did a sneak preview in Texas, and oh my God, it was insane. We also had Rick Linklater come out and do the Q&A. I mean, lead it. He's a great filmmaker. And
South by Southwest?
South by Southwest. So before we opened the film, we did like a live broadcast of Texas. In Texas, I learned a lot. Texas for us from the very beginning became a character, a really important character. And it was when we were editing, we had the choice of like more interviews in Mali or in Texas. And we kept on we had 45 interviews. You can see we're down to way less than 45 interviews just so we can have Molly tell Molly's story. Because every time she wasn't on the screen, I'd go, where's Molly? We kind of miss Molly. So I think that's one of the things the critics have been really great about. really understand the editing process and the choices we made and why it's so important to get out of the way and let Molly tell what's happening. And she does it only, who else could tell Molly except for Molly, as you can all know. So that's how we made those choices.
Do you have any other good Molly Ivins stories that didn't make it into the film?
Well, one of my favorites is when she was doing, she was anti-gun violence. She said, "I'm not anti-gun, I'm pro-knife." So, and then there was one, I know this is not going to come over funny, but it was funny to me because she said, "Watch out, women and children, the Texas ledge is about to open." So, you know, I know that's not as funny, but I like that line. So she was always saying stuff. I think that Molly was Twitter ready. You know, she had those phrases. She would out-Twitter you-know-who. Oh my God, you-know-who would be burning up with her Twitter tweets.
Yeah, she had some great material in Texas too. One of my favorite columns that she wrote was she was talking about this representative in the legislature who was trying to prove that the assemblyman there didn't actually read or research any of the material they voted on. And there was this one guy who introduced a resolution for this guy who had apparently done great contributions to population control.
That Molly was saying things that are so true now that it's kind of scary. But I think that we made this film because we wanted to, at least I made the film because I'm a political activist. I felt like Molly could give us hope. You know, I think Molly is one person who made a huge difference. And I think her message to all of us is that we individually can make a difference. And I know that I can, you know, the film I made on North Korea, the guy who was the ambassador to human rights to North Korea, showed it to the European Parliament, and you know, people were learning about the horrors of horrors. So you know, this is something we all can do. Just getting the word out about Molly and the film, the more people that see it. A little girl saw it in Texas, and she came up to Janice and said, "I'm starting a school newspaper," and that's what we made the film, right? She's 12 years old, and she's going to write a newspaper, and I know she's going to make a difference in her high school. So every one of us had that.
My wife reminded me that we didn't introduce you. This is James Egan,
James.
the producer of this film, one of the producers of this film, and he's just had a stellar career as a documentary filmmaker. Can you just talk a little bit about a couple of your other films? I mean, I've seen. Well, go ahead.
Bruce has seen and reviewed them all, so I have to be really careful. Bruce has been great. You know, I've started out, I made a film, I ran a school for wounded warriors up in Camp Pendleton and 29 Palms, and we did short films, and we did a little film. And I say this because I've made all kinds of documentaries that Bruce has seen, but this little film we made on the children of the deployed in the elementary school up here, and the impact of war on the children when their parents are away. This little film, made by a wounded warrior, we showed it, I'm a professor at USC, we showed it to the social research department. They showed it to Mrs. Buck.
You get in here?
Yeah, well, first,
We're gonna get the poster
I
first.
get the poster first.
Right?
So,
Maybe stay closer. Okay. Here you go.
so that was an amazing film.
Thank you.
What I'd like to know is, what inspired you to make this film?
My friend is Allison Engel, and she and her sister wrote the play on Molly Ivins, and I had to go because she went to see my film, so I had to go see her play, and I'd never heard of Molly Ivins, and I literally cried and laughed, and I was so inspired by Molly, and I said, if I don't know about Molly, how many people are out there like this? And so I decided I'm going to make a documentary, and so we took off and put everything on our credit card, and Janice and Carlisle went out to Texas, and we started interviewing people, and that's how it happened. That was 7 years ago.
And it's mostly women.
Mostly women, yeah. I have an amazing crew of women, Janice and Carlisle, of course, but we have Monique Savitoski, who's this brilliant editor, and then we had Monique and Janice write it, and then we have our archivist with Amber Howell and Gerald, and our camera woman, Christy Tully, and so it's also I think Molly would be impressed that we have these extraordinary women making the story about an extraordinary woman. I think it's only appropriate, and I guess I'm an honorary person in there.
So, what do you feel the relevance of the film and Molly is to present day? Because so much of what she said was really prophetic.
Right. I think Molly is really important today. I think more, I don't say more important than when she was alive, but because of the polarity of politics and the inability to tell the truth, let's put it that way, when she was so powerful at telling the truth, but she said it in a funny way, and I think that's something we could really benefit from right now, because she just didn't, make fun of the right or the left. She made fun of corrupt people. She made fun of people who were screwing the people. And that's what, that's what we need right now. Someone who can make fun of them in a way that makes us laugh, but also see the truth and the horror of the situation that we're in right now. And I know Molly is Twitter ready. My favorite line about Molly, which could be very applied today, is that if you put his brain into a bumblebee, he would fly backwards. And I can think of a lot of politicians nowadays that would apply to. So I think that's where she's relevant, And I think that when she said, who are we going to blame for all this? And then she made that big statement in the film, illegal aliens, she talks about, when we blame so many people or so many of things outside of ourselves for what's going on in America and why things are going wrong, and then decide to make us less free, we're basically less free. And I think that's what's going on right now. Our civil rights are being attacked. Our ability to speak up is being attacked. And all those who do speak up are made to feel like they're less patriot than those who take in all the lies that we're being fed right now. So I think Molly could have cut through all the lies and help us all cut through those lies. But in a funny way, right? We got to laugh about it.
Absolutely.
So invite everybody. Yeah,
Thank you
invite
very
everybody to.
Oh yeah, we will. Now just invite everyone, to come to the film, because we're going to be promoting it all over the country.
Okay, great.
So just to the camera.
So for all you people who would like a good laugh and really want to have a good time, and also Molly I would say, the greatest form of free entertainment is politics, and I think we could really use Molly's voice now to help us to see the entertainment about politics. This film is playing in 88 theaters across the country, where our profits go to the ACLU and to the Texas Observer. And if you get out there and you see this film, you're going to have some fun, I promise you. So raise hell.
There you go. Shake hands.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Now,
Thank you.
say your name and the spelling of your name so we get it right.
I'm James Egan. I'm the producer of Raise Hell, The Life and Times of Molly Ivins. JAMESEGAN.
Do the peace sign for us.
And then the peace sign.
Thank
James
you.
Egan. Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Appreciate you guys being here.
So you've got.
And I found my card.
Oh, good, excellent.
Here you go.
Perfect. Yeah. 'Cause, do you like to take a minute or two just to?
Well, peace. I think peace is that part of ourselves that allows us to trust ourselves and to go with that trust and really follow that trust in our heart. That's what real peace is, when we have that trust.
Peace Day Global Broadcast. Remember that?
Yep. You're watching the Peace Day Global Broadcast.
Thank